all the themes and the conversations, one theme kept coming up: partnerships, collaborations, coalition building, engagement. And what struck me as I was listening to all of these conversations was that no one sector can do this alone. We're talking about the higher education sector. We're talking about higher education. No one sector can do this alone. No one institution can do this alone. No one player, no one faculty can do this alone. We are all in this together, and to make it work, we have to work with partnerships. But partnerships are not new in African higher education. There have been several partnerships, several consortia, several collaborative efforts. You have had the Partnership for Higher Education in Africa by the foundations. You have had partnerships between faculties, between universities around disciplines. You have the African Economic Research Consortium. You've had various kinds. You have Roof Forum. They have all been collaborative ventures. But a lot of them have been conventional partnerships. They are partnerships between funders and faculty. They are partnerships between faculty and faculty to improve the quality and relevance of the discipline. There are collaboratives to bring in new programs. And I come from one of them. The Partnership for African Social and Governance Research is a partnership between 13 universities in 7 countries with funders and occasionally with government to create a situation of excellence in social science research, teaching, and training for public policy. This was because there was an identified need for public policy, and then we came together. But I think today, what I'll be asking my panelists, my distinguished panelists, is to look at the different elements of the partnerships, to speak a little bit about the partnerships they are engaged in, and that will be the first part of the presentation. Then we'll move on to look at how they are leveraging other kinds of partnerships. And I want us to begin to think of unconventional collaborations. I want us to begin to think of unprecedented conversations. I want us to begin to think about, even beyond where we are, when we talk about our own partnerships, begin to share with the rest of us the fact of what is missing in our partnership. What is it?
Partnership is absolutely essential to what a foundation can do. We are not in the space, we are not in the schools, so we need teachers. We are not we are part of civil society, but not in certain spaces. We need partners there. So then the second thing is, what can we offer? We can offer money, we can offer resources of other kinds, in kinds, and we can offer engagement and the people we have and the people we can mobilize. Now, Tade, you've been asking for unconventional things in this partnership, so I can't give you yet in depth an example of higher education on the continent because we're fresh. But what I can give you is some failures which have hindered us from being unconventional. My feeling is that too often one talks about success stories and not enough about failures. So we've tried, for example, to implement in Germany, I won't quote the place and the university, a chair on early childhood education, right? So this is an endeavor in higher education because the analysis we've done has shown that there is a great need for substantial knowledge from outside Germany, as this space is not very well serviced, right? So for the education for the staff working in early childhood. So we had an agreement with one of the greatest universities in the countries. We had the funding ready and we worked on it, but we didn't speak the same language. So in order to make it unconventional and great, we should have been much better prepared to be in the space and to understand how university people think and act. To be very honest, a certain slowness was driving me crazy when I was responsible of it, the speed in business and the speed in university tend to be different. And I think this is not a blame, it's a reality, because the things people do are different. So talking about partnerships, I think my first take is be clear of what you can offer, be clear about what the other really wants, not just the money you bring with you, but what do you really want? They wanted something different, and speak the same language or understand the language of the other. Now, when it comes to, for example, our engagement here in the continent, this has many other aspects in it. This is why I was saying this morning, and I really appreciate you saying this also, Tade, it's about learning. It's about learning and understanding and feel, talking about skills, I need to have the skill as a foundation guy to understand African higher education, really, and not come with my stuff. So I would believe that this type of initial conversation at the beginning of a partnership with the patience you need and the understanding of the other is a prerequisite for something that could be then really helpful.
So let me go into some of the other partnerships then. So MasterCard is one of the partners that we have on board that is supporting our program and has allowed us to really expand the diversity of our program, because in the beginning we were about 90% Rwandan in terms of our student population, and that was because of the funding that was offered by the government. The government was also very generous in extending a 50% scholarship to all East African citizens as part of this tuition reciprocity policy that they had within the East African community. Another interesting partnership that I'll mention, and maybe I can go into detail a little bit later, which has also come about in the last 2 years, is with the Smart Africa Alliance. So this organization was formed actually as a direct outcome of this conference I mentioned in the beginning, Connect Africa. So they had all of these recommendations that they came up with, and they said, how do we now actually implement them? There are lots of, they're within the East Africa community, they have, various committees that are set up, but they found that sometimes things work slowly if you're depending on the governments to move the needle. So they wanted to set up a secretariat that had some kind of autonomy to implement the different recommendations that came about. And so one of the things that they set up was a scholarship fund that is Pan-African. The contributions of the scholarship fund come from the member states, and what the director of the secretariat would like to do is, he's already in negotiations with companies that are also part of the secretariat, is to round up, please. Was to get the private sector to match these funds. And so I'd like to go into a little bit more detail about how we can, structure these partnerships in new ways to scale what we're doing. Thank you.
You talked about innovation, and you say, well, in partnership, there's no innovation. Just the strict criteria, and we have to follow the criteria to get to some of the objectives, and I do agree with you. But in our situation, I think in the overall universities in Mozambique, of course, we have 44 new universities in Mozambique, and most of the universities are private. And in the private universities, the students, they are supposed to pay for it, the tuition fees. In the public universities, they don't. It's still, if you do undergraduate studies, it's still free. You just pay the minimum. And I think we need to change somehow the way that we are approaching these university studies, how we offer the university studies to everyone. And the way that we are doing, maybe it's not sustainable. I had yesterday everyone talking about the loans that the students, they have to get either from the banks or from any other institution. And well, some of the students, they are able to pay back the loans, and the others, they do suffer. But I think somehow we need to rethink also the strategies that we have vis-a-vis our situation there in the country. But from government, we have this policy of open access And the open access is something which keeps coming in most of the international policies, like the SDGs and the everything else. So to make the balance and the right balance, following the international trends and trying to keep the institutions sustainable as well. I think this is the challenge what we are facing right now.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Beth Waweru, Equity Group Foundation. Many times when I say I'm from Equity Group Foundation or Equity Foundation, people say, oh, wings to fly. I'm like, no, it's a little bit more than that. So I'm just going to highlight, we have 6 other pillars in Equity Group Foundation. We have agriculture, we work in energy and environment. We also have entrepreneurship education and financial literacy. And we also have health. And then now the larger program now is what we call the education program. It's actually education and leadership development, and which is what I will focus on for this forum. In the education program, we have 3 programs actually within education. And I'll start with the Wings to Fly, which is the flagship program of the foundation. It's the largest pillar that we have. And the success of the Wings to Fly program and why people know our social work in the Wings to Fly program is mainly because of the partnerships that we have leveraged. And so far we have sponsored 14,168 children, and this program sponsors children through secondary school. So we do a selection process during just after the completion of the primary education. And one of the first partnerships that we develop is with the local community, because we are not the ones who actually select the kids. We set up committees that are comprised of local leaders, local chief, the education officers, religious leaders, people who can actually attest to the children that they're going to forward for recommendation of scholarships. And our focus is to look at orphans and vulnerable children, so the OVCs. So in every region where we have a branch, currently we have about 176 branches across Kenya. So the scale of the program is nationwide. So they select the scholars, they validate, they do the home visits, they do interviews, and then they select about 20 or a short list of about 20, and they forward the names of about 12, depending on how much funding we have available. You have heard from Ivy. For every pillar that we have an anchor partner. So Ivy and the MasterCard Foundation are our anchor partners in the Wings to Fly program. Other partners are the US government through USAID. We have the German government through the implementing agency KfW. We've previously had sponsorship from DFID. And now we also have a few private organizations or private individuals coming. For example, we have one who sponsors 64 kids. So the key thing about the Wings to Fly program is that it was developed by Equity, and the structure allows that for any partner who wants to come in, and they say you need to sponsor like 200 kids, the scholars will get the exact same support. We offer full tuition, full scholarship for tuition, full tuition and books. We provide for their transport. We provide for their pocket money, and we also give them a shopping hamper at the beginning of every term.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Zero Sogoncho. I'm a USIU student doing finance. I'm a proud Future Leaders Legacy Scholar that is under African American Institute. Thank you. So before I start my presentation, like a little bit of the point that I have, I want to recognize some of the students that we worked with in coming up with the ideas. That is Beryl and Patricia Lekale. You can wave. Thank you. So I think partnership is a very interesting topic, and we as human beings usually face partnership in our daily lives, because I guess marriage is one of the partnerships that we usually face. And the success behind, the secret, behind every successful partnership, it's the unity. Because if we come up and then we say, like, let's do this, and we don't have the unity, the cohesion, there's going to be a disconnect, and that one is going to make the contract lag behind.